Ableton On Air is sponsored by Green Mountain Support Services, empowering people with disabilities to be home in the community. Washington County Mental Health, where hope and support comes together. Media sponsors for Ableton On Air include Parkchester Times, Muslim Community Report, www.thisisthebronx.info, Associated Press Media Editors, New York Parrot Online Newspaper, U.S. Press Corps Domestic and International, Anchor FM, and Spotify. Partners with Ableton On Air include Yachad New York and New England, where everyone belongs, and the Orthodox Union. Ableton On Air has been seen in the following publications: Parkchester Times, New York Parrot Online Newspaper, Muslim Community Report, www.thisisthebronx.info, and www.aish.com. Hello and welcome to this edition of Ableton On Air, the one and only program that focuses on the needs, concerns, and achievements of the differently able. I've always been your host, Lawrence Seiler. Arlene is here today. Say hi, Arlene.
Hi.
Okay. We would like to thank our sponsors, Green Mountain Support Services, Washington County Mental Health, and many others who have partnered with us on Ableton On Air. On this episode of Ableton On Air, we talk about news and information in the special needs community. So let's begin this program. Dick Hoyt, who has ran marathons while pushing his son, dies at 80. This is according to the New York Times and other newspapers. He finished more than 1,000 road races with his son, Rick, who is in a wheelchair. They were best known for competing in the Boston Marathon. Now, here's a man, despite his challenges, if you look at video, he was getting older and so on and so forth.
The wife passed away in 2010.
Yes. Dick Hoyt pushed his son Rick in the Boston Marathon in 2006, and the two competed in the race nearly every year from 1980 to 2014. And the article from the New York Times goes on to say Dick Hoyt, Richard Hoyt, who became a familiar sight, pushing his son Rick in a wheelchair road races across the country. Now, this man didn't necessarily always do marathons. He swam and he did other things. He had his son on a raft. News video shows that all around the world. Rick in a wheelchair at road races around the country, especially in Boston Marathon, died this past Wednesday at his home in Holland, Massachusetts. He was 80. His death was announced by the Boston Athletic Association, which organizes the Boston Marathon. His son, Russ, said the cause was congestive heart failure. Rick Hoyt was born in 1962, with the son of Richard Hoyt, a quadriplegic with cerebral palsy, unable to control his limbs or speak. He had long since learned how to interpret our son's smiles and nods. Dick Hoyt wrote in his 2010 book, Devoted, the story of a father's love for his son. But as good as everyone in the family was figuring out what Rick needed and still making educated guesses. But in 1962, engineers at Tufts University, TUFTS University, built a computer that allowed Rick to communicate by choosing letters with a tap of his head, and the first words were "Go Bruins." revealed a passionate love for sports. In 1977, the article goes on to say in the New York Times, in 1977, Rick asked to be involved in a 5-mile benefit run. Though his father was not a competitive runner, he pushed Rick in a wheelchair the entire distance, finishing next to last. So he was a pretty good competitor. And then it goes on to say he ran the fastest marathon came in 1992 at the Marine Corps Marathon in Washington and Virginia. 2 hours, 40 minutes, and 47 seconds. The time put the elder Hoyt in 50 to 59 year range division despite his extra load. They ran the Boston Marathon nearly every year from 1980 to 2014. They ran unofficially because officials balked at classifying their hybrid entry as runner or wheelchair competitor. So they were kind of made fun of there. And it's not really good to make people... and matter of fact, there's a video here which we can courtesy CBS News, but let me finish here. In 2013, they were stopped before finishing because of the deadly bombing at the finish line. They had expected to their final Boston Marathon, but returned in 2014 to finish the race for the 32nd time. They also contested in triathlons, including 6 at the grueling Ironman distance, which was their best time, 13 hours, 43 minutes, 37 seconds. Dick pulled his son Rick in a boat for the swimming legs and rode a tandem cycle, which is a large cycle for people with disabilities, for the biking segment. They also biked and ran across country in 1992, which, with the help of a computer, he was used to communicate. The son graduated from Boston University with a degree in special education in 1993. The father was born, Dick Hoyt was born June 1st, 1940 in Winchester, Massachusetts. His father, Alfred, worked as a used car salesman, and his mother, Anna Hoyt, was a homemaker. The father grew up near, hold on, let me go down. The father grew up near North Reading and was the captain of the North Reading High School football team. He married his high school sweetheart, but then it goes on to say, soon after the mother graduated, she went on to find Camp for Kids, which allowed children with or without disabilities to go to camp together. He served in the National Guard for 37 years. After achieving notoriety for him and his son's running exploits, he began a career in international speaking, giving as much as 100 speeches a year. And there is a statue in front of the Boston, incredible father who, with his love for his son. Anything you want to say in reference to that?
Let's say that's very inspiring.
Yeah, and there are other things about. Let me see if we can click the video, because we can show the video and go to it. Let's take a look at a video about the father, Richard Hoyt. Let's take a look at this. and we can click that, and it'll be edited in.
Crossed the finish line, and you know what? I know this never gets old. I talked to you at the starting line, and was it tougher this year around?
Well, no, it wasn't tougher. We made it a little tougher because all our fans out there were out there to support us, and it was just unbelievable, the crowds and the noise that they made. Somebody said they might have 1 million. I thought they had 2 million people. That's how good the crowds were, you know, and we were able to stop with some children in wheelchairs along the side and some elderly people, you know, and we went over and talked to them and hugged them and kissed them. So it took us a little longer than we wanted, but we're here.
You know, you said last year was going to be your last race, but you had to do this one, didn't you?
Yes, we definitely had. We knew right away after last year, because of the bombings, that we would come back and run in honor of the people who got killed and injured. And the crowds out there, you talk about Boston sports fans, they're unbelievable. And we all said Boston was strong, but you know how much stronger they were this year? It's unbelievable.
How did Rick hold up?
He's awesome. He's got big smiles on his face.
Look at.
He was checking out the pretty girls, especially around Wellesley, you know. Yeah, they come over and give me a kiss and all that. It was unbelievable.
It has been a whirlwind for you, hasn't it? Yesterday at the Red Sox game, you just met Mr. Kraft, the owner of the Patriots today.
Right, yeah, it's awesome. He's a great man, Rob Kraft. You know, when the Patriots were having problems that they thought they were going to have to move out of the state, he had a soccer game, and he invited Rick and I to start the soccer game.
Wow.
And when we got there, he went right over and talked directly to Rick, not through me. And that tells you what kind of man he is.
It tells you what type of people you are. Way to finish.
Thanks.
Way to finish.
Thanks.
You do it again next year, you're done.
Well, it's a lot of people said we'll see you back next year.
I knew you couldn't say you were done.
No, I didn't say I'll be back. A lot of people said we'll see you back, but they had big smiles on their faces.
You got it. Congratulations.
Thank you very much.
Dick and,
One more question.
Dick and Rick Hoyt, our guests. Let's go back up to you guys.
Steve, thanks so much. They're just so inspirational, and it was very.
Okay. We can grab a piece of that. Anyway, you know, there are a lot of situations with sports and people with disabilities. We have the Special Olympics and other Paralympics stuff. Matter of fact, let me, real quick, since we're talking about news and sports at the same time, you know, Paralympics.
Yes.
Yeah, Paralympic game. Yeah. So according to Wikipedia, let me just go over here. The Paralympic Games, or Paralympics, is a periodic series of international sporting events involving athletes with a range of disabilities, including impaired muscle power, quadriplegia, paraplegia, muscular dystrophy, post-polio syndrome, spinal bifida, etc. And they deal with, they have summer games and winter games. The Paralympic, there were winter and summer games, which since 1988, the Summer Olympics in Seoul, Korea, are held almost immediately following the retrospective Olympic Games. All Paralympic Games are governed by the International Paralympic Committee. Okay, the Paralympics have grown from a small gathering of British World War II veterans in 1948 and became one of the largest international countries of sporting events in the early 20th century. The Paralympics have grown from 400 athletes with a disability from 23 countries in 1960 to thousands of competitors of 100 countries in 2012 Summer Olympics. Paralympians strive for equal treatment with non-disabled Olympic athletes, but there is a funding gap between Olympic and Paralympic athletes. The Paralympic Games parallel with the Olympic Games, which the IOC recognized Special Olympics World Games. It is a large competition, and they usually have a lot of sports, basketball, weightlifting, etc. So it also depends on the situation of what sport, um, you know. There are runners. So if you want information on the Paralympic Games, you can go to Wikipedia and look up Paralympic Games and find it. You can also go to www.specialolympics.org and look up Special Olympics if you're interested in that. We can look at that really quick here. The Special Olympics and People with Disabilities is a wonderful organization since we are on that topic. During the pandemic, it's been really hard for sports, period. Talking about that, just to let you know that stadiums are going to be starting to open. We had Ron Rondon a couple of weeks ago. We're going to open up they're going to, New York is going to open up at like 2,500 capacity. Yeah. So, and then you want to say about Special Olympics, Babes, and sports and things?
Well, can't wait for baseball season to start.
Yeah, baseball season. But Special Olympics is a large organization, and starting in the 1960s by Eunice.
You're not going to have it this year because of the pandemic.
Well, stadiums are going to be at like 2,500 people capacity.
Yeah, probably got to wear masks during the thing.
So, Eunice Kennedy Shriver started Special Olympics. Let me look that up quick. Quick here. Okay, so Eunice Kennedy Shriver's story, and we have a little time left. We can talk about her. Eunice Kennedy Shriver's story. She started the Special Olympics. Since we're on sports and people with disabilities, we might as well mention her because she was a wonderful person. And we're also going to be partnering with the John F. Kennedy Jr. Institute for Worker Education and City College.
You know who her daughter is?
Yeah. Eunice Kennedy Shriver. Eunice Kennedy Shriver believed in justice in the 1950s and early 1960s. She saw a little justice for people with intellectual disabilities and how they were treated. They either were placed in custodial institutions. Custodial institutions, and they were often ignored and neglected. And she knew that she had many talents to offer. Eunice Kennedy Shriver had a sister, Rosemary Kennedy, who had a intellectual disability. I had a great experience at the Rosa Kennedy Center with occupational physical therapy when I was growing up. But Eunice Kennedy Shriver had a sister, Rosemary, who had an intellectual disability. She and Rosemary grew up playing sports together with their family. Her sisters swam and sailed and skied, played football together, etc. Eunice Kennedy Shriver went on to become an athlete in college, and she wanted to unite people from all walks of life. And then in 1968, she started Camp Shriver with sports and physical activities for people with intellectual disabilities, which
still running?
Huh?
Is that still running today?
What? I'm sorry?
At camp.
Let me look that up since we're on. Let me see. Camp Shriver. Yeah, it is. Well, no. Cam Schreiber is because remember, Cam Schreiber started the Special Olympics.
Yeah.
So, and it went to events leading up to the Special Olympics. In her remarks to the opening ceremony, and she said to the inaugural Special Olympics, prove a very fundamental fact. Children with intellectual disabilities can be exceptional athletes, and that through sports they can realize potential growth. She pledged that this new organization, Special Olympics, would offer people with intellectual disabilities the chance to play, the chance to compete, and a chance to grow.
Yeah.
Which began at one woman's vision, evolved into Special Olympics International, a global movement that today serves 6 million people with intellectual disabilities in 200 countries. Eunice Kennedy Shriver was born in Massachusetts in July 1921, and you know, she married Sergeant Shriver in 1957 and took over the direction of the Joe P. Kennedy Jr. Foundation. Now, it goes on to say that the foundation has two major objectives: to seek the prevention of intellectual disability by identifying the causes and to improve the means by which society deals with citizens with intellectual disabilities. President Kennedy's panel on mental retardation in 1961 started the development for the Institute for Child Health and Human Development in 1962. But it goes on to say that the Kennedys were very influential in helping people with disabilities. You have the John F. Kennedy Jr. Worker Foundation in New York, and so on. So if you would like more information on the Special Olympics, you can go to www.specialolympics.org / Eunice Kennedy Shriver bio. So www.specialolympics.org / Eunice Kennedy Shriver bio, and you can see it there. She's very influential in terms of that. Anything you want to say before we end? Special Olympics, people need to be spoken to with respect in all walks of life, whether it be sports, whether it be employment, whether it be independence. And that's the topic for today. People with special needs, from the father, Mr. Richard Hoyt, who really helped his son have a great quality of life, and to now with the Special Olympics and other sports entities doing the same. People with special needs need to be treated with dignity and respect. And with that, we would like to say thank you to our sponsors, Green Mountain Support Services, Washington County Mental Health, and many others who have partnered with Abled and On Air. This puts an end to this edition of Abled and On Air. I'm Lauren Seiler.
I'm Armin Seiler.
See you next time. Abled and On Air is sponsored by Green Mountain Support Services, empowering people with disabilities to be home in the community. Washington County Mental Health, where hope and support comes together. Media sponsors for Abled and On Air include Parkchester Times, Muslim Community Report, www.thisisthebronx.info, Associated Press Media Editors, New York Parrot Online Newspaper, U.S. Press Corps, Domestic and International, Anchor FM, and Spotify. Partners with Abled and On Air include Yechad New York and New England, where everyone belongs, and the Orthodox Union. Ableton On Air has been seen in the following publications: Parkchester Times, New York Parrot online newspaper, Muslim Community Report, www.thisisthebronx.info, and www.aish.com.